r/ask Reddit. What is the most bizarre reason a customer got angry with you? I worked at a Burger King in high school. A guy comes in one day complaining he put in money to get a newspaper in the machine outside, and it wasn't this Sunday's paper. He wanted a refund. I told him we didn't own that machine, and we weren't able to give him his money back. I also mentioned to him it was actually Saturday, not Sunday. He flew into a rage. Threw last week's Sunday edition of the paper all around the restaurant and behind the counter. My manager comes out and threatens to call the cops. Dude leaves screaming about how we ripped him off. Sometimes you can't fix stupid. All that for $1.50? MFW. I went into a gas station store to get my $1 back after the air pump machine ate it. Though I was polite about it and they said they knew the machine was broken, so they gave me the $1. A woman and her high school daughter walk up to me while I'm working in Bath and Body Works. Here's how the convo goes. Mom, we don't know what they are called, but you know those things you can wear around your neck and you clip keys or badges to them? Do you sell those here? Me. Oh. Do you mean lanyards? Mom. What did you call me? Me. Nothing. You said you didn't know what those things are called. They are called lanyards. Unfortunately we do not sell them here. Maybe check Hot Topic? Mom. Whatever. Thanks for wasting my time. As they turned to leave, the daughter turned behind her mom's back and mouthed, "I'm sorry," to me. Poor girl. That mom was nuts. You lanyard. If you keep saying that word again and again. I used to deliver pizza. I had someone get irate and refuse the delivery because they'd ordered it to be delivered at 7 PM and I got there at 6:55. I hope people just stood there for 5 minutes refusing to hand it over till 7 exactly. They wanted a new pizza because they said the one I brought would be cold by 7 when they wanted to eat. I told them we'd have to bake a new pizza then and it'd be late. They opted for late. I ran a few more deliveries with their pizza in my backseat and went back around 7:30 with the exact same pizza but told them it was a new one. They opened it to make sure it was hot and were happy with it. Then they called to complain about the experience. Then we had to update our order policy that if you specify a delivery time we can only guarantee a time range and not a specific minute. Worked at Walmart and this guy went through my line buying something for his tires. He accidentally got two different things. One was a lot more expensive than the other. He got pissed, looking at his receipt, and demanded to know why one cost more money. I looked at the products and noticed one had some gel inserted in the product. I told him this and he demanded to know why this made the product more expensive. I explained to him I knew nothing about cars and was just a cashier but he could go to customer service to exchange the more expensive product for the cheaper one. He then refused to leave my line until I lowered the price of the more expensive product. BTW. I was working the express checkout line on Friday at 5:30 and a huge line was forming behind this man-child. My manager finally got him to leave the line and go to customer service, though his son was in line behind him and apologized for his father's actions. Good son. They noticed I had an accent. I'm from Southern Virginia and North Carolina area, and pointed it out as Russian. I don't know how they possibly thought my accent was Russian, but I corrected them and they got angry that I was being condescending to them. The personification of a Facebook moms group troll looking for a fight regardless of logic and sound maturity. I've been screamed at like that except for the price of lotto tickets. Tell them if they had picked better numbers then maybe they would have been able to afford the price hike. That's how you die. Because I didn't open up shop an hour before opening time. Because he was here now. So opened the store. He kept banging on the door and then threw a metal bucket at my head. Good times. We used to hide as if a psycho killer were trying to find us whenever a customer rocked up before opening hours. They're the worst. And they always say they don't mind that you're still cleaning, setting up, whatever. But they'd be the first to see you if they tripped over the cleaning supplies. Worst thing is, we only sold deep fried food. It was 10 in the morning. A woman I had never met or seen in my life asked me where her kids were. I was confused and said I'm sorry, I don't know. And she yelled and asked where they put them. She stormed off angry at me. I never had a clue why she asked me. I can tell from your kind eyes that they are in your heart and on your mind. I was a department manager in a health and beauty section, next to the pharmacy of a grocery store. A guy came in and asked for an antifungal called meconazole that the doctor suggested for an infection on his face. Now, as some of you may know, meconazole is very commonly used for yeast infections in the vagina, so it is sold by the feminine hygiene products, pads, tampons, etc. I took him over there, pointed out the meconazole and showed him that we carried a generic store brand as a cheaper alternative. Dude was absolutely pissed off that I suggested he put kitten cream on his face and demanded to speak to a manager. I told him that I was the department manager and he argued, saying there's no way a chick is in charge of men, and left. Or so I thought. Apparently, he had wandered the department and found the nearest male employee, who then brought a customer to his manager, me, when he had no idea where or what meconazole was. The customer refused again to listen to me, so I told the stocker to bring him to the pharmacist, also a woman Lomeo, to discuss his needs. Next thing I heard was him screaming at the pharmacist, demanding to talk to someone who knew what they were talking about. He was asked to leave and eventually security was called to escort him out when he continued to rant and rave about women who know nothing about his medical needs. I'm dying over kitten cream, Lomeo. I think I've told this story once in a post somewhere else, probably with one of my old accounts. I used to work deli for a New England grocery chain. Working in Vermont, working in one of the biggest stores meant that we would often be loaned out during ski season to small stores with big holiday booms. It was very busy for them. About normal for my store. I was slicing cheese for a woman, who got real angry that I hadn't stacked her cheese perfectly straight, which blew my mind. Who expects deli sliced cheese to be stacked perfectly? The story has a happy ending though. Her exact, indignant words were, "Where I'm from in New York they stack the cheese perfectly straight." And the guy behind her, a regular the local employees had greeted by name, piped up and said, "Well then maybe you should go the duck back to New York." Best moment I've ever had at work. This lady at Walmart once got really pissed off at me because we didn't sell pasteurized eggs. And this wasn't the loud, screaming kind of pissed off. She just looked at me very intensely and spoke at low volume, over enunciating every syllable, and said, "Tell your managers to order pasteurized eggs." This other lady grabbed my arm and started pulling on me, telling me that the fact that we shut down our sewing department felt like we had killed her child, and that less and less people were going to come to Walmart because of stuff like that, and that we would have to close down. A customer came in to buy hand sanitizer. She brought her bottle to the register to purchase it, saw there was some at the register, then proceeded to share her vast knowledge of swear words with great vigor with me, swearing she would never shop with us again. What? Clearly you should have known what she was there for. Stopped her at the door and let her know it can be found at the register. I mean, how lazy are you? Lady walked into my office, asking for one of my colleagues. I explained to her that he actually works out of a different office, which is listed in his email signature and our website. She was upset, as she had documents to drop off to him. I explained to her that his office is only 3 minutes down the street if she wanted to make the drive, or I could scan her documents and email them to him. She refused, so I said, "Well, you can leave them here with me and I can ask the guy to come pick them up tomorrow." She again said no, because she didn't trust me. I explained that I am the director of operations for the company, basically my colleague's boss. She then yells that she doesn't know me and this is extremely sensitive information and storms out. 1 minute later, she comes in and asks for my business card to prove I am who I say I am. LOL. I give her one, and she leaves her stuff with me and storms off again. Sometimes people yell that they know our company's CEOs and they'll get me fired. Things like Carmen is a good friend of mine and I'm going to have her fire you. Or I saw Mike in the warehouse and I'm going to march right up to him and tell him to fire you. The problem with this is always that A, Carmen is a guy, and B, nobody ever knows where Mike is except Carmen and their assistant. And if people elsewhere in the company do know where Mike is, he's on vacation not halfway across the country fiddling with boxes in a warehouse. My favorite was when a guy threatened to have me fired unless I reactivated his account because Carmen and I are good friends now and I'm going to have him fire you because I'm meeting him in his office in about 20 minutes and he's waiting to sell. Me a truckload of mattresses. Okay, but A, I know Carmen threatened to sue you if you ever did business with us again, and B, Carmen's office is directly next to mine and he is not there and has no scheduled meetings today, and C, we do not have any truckloads of mattresses at the moment. I was a cashier. It was an old woman. Whole Foods. Back when they had the app to scan for little to no savings. She couldn't get her app to work. I spent 5-10 minutes trying to help, looking at her phone, etc. She gave up and her transaction goes through. As she shouts, "I got it open." I looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, the transaction went through. I can't scan the app at this point." She gave me a dirty look, went to the front desk, told my manager I was a beach and walked away. It's people like her who I just think are gonna die so sad and angry. Normally the thought that they're going to wallow in their own misery puts me in the best of moods, but then I realize that they're not going quietly into the night. No, angry, unhappy people like that seem to be hell-bent on taking the rest of us down with them. Don't get me wrong, me and depression go way back. I completely understand being a miserable bastard. I will just never understand the need to take it out on other people. I used to work for Best Buy and Geek Squad but would cover PC occasionally. I had someone get mad at me because the quality of Intel chips has been steadily going down and they wanted me to give them a discount to buy an Intel laptop. They obviously knew it was a manufacturer's thing, as they even talked to me about how Intel is pushing their resources into quantum computing and not advancing current hardware the same way. Like, I can't just call someone at Intel and tell them to change their focus. I can't give you 20% off a new laptop because you dislike AMD and the price for performance doesn't really match anymore. This sounds like when my father-in-law started calling his son, who has a job in oil and gas, every time his gas prices changed. Guy was irate because I didn't get his pizza delivered in time. He yelled at me and said he didn't want it and would never order again. I got back in my car and as he stared me down from the porch I started eating his pizza. I took a couple of bites then drove off with both hands on the wheel and a piece of pie hanging out of my mouth. He was very polite when he ordered again a few days later. I have two examples. One, I was a teller for almost 4 years when I was in college, and I remember getting yelled at and customers growing angry with me because they were low on money or had checks bounced or a plethora of other reasons due to them lacking funds. How the Sam Hill is that my ducking fault? Also, in high school I worked at Toys R Us for a while and I caught a lady trying to shoplift. She flipped out and started calling me a racist. The GM came over and asked her to empty her bag if there was nothing to be found. Sure enough, there was a few pairs of baby shoes from the Babies R Us side of the store and a small toy. She threw the items on the ground and stormed off and intentionally knocked over one of our kiosk things. We reported it but nothing ever happened to her. Oh man. I saw some of the angriest customers I've ever seen back when I was a bank teller. I once had someone throw his checkbook at me and ask how the duck am I out of money when I study I learn it'll have checks. Someone also once tried to openly carry his handgun into the ducking vault and accused me of violating his Second Amendment rights when I told him no way, no how. Get that out of here. Customer ordered a dish that always comes with French fries. Got mad when he got his French fries because he wanted bread. No big deal. I apologized, although I did nothing wrong, and brought him some bread immediately. Problem solved, you'd think. But he then started yelling at me because apparently the restaurant always serves this with bread. I should have just agreed with him, but I foolishly didn't. He told me I was wrong. I told him I had worked there for 5 years already, that I knew I wasn't wrong, and I advised him to tell staff that he wanted bread when ordering next time. At this point he got red in the face and screamed that he knew better because he'd been a customer for 10 years already, which is rich, since the restaurant hadn't even been open that long. Long story short, the owner came over to his table. She supported me. The guy ate his food that must have been cold by then and never came back. I'll never forget his poor wife, quietly trying to calm him down and to get him to let it go. She was incredibly embarrassed but I doubt he even noticed. Sounds like he might have been in the early stages of dementia. It's really common to get irrationally angry when things aren't the way someone remembers. Or maybe he was just an a-hole. The world may never know. So a few years ago I was working as a cashier and it was my job to watch over the self-checkout machines and help anyone who was having trouble. So middle of the day I see this guy having trouble with one. He didn't understand that you need to scan the item and place it on the scale before scanning the next one. So I walk over and ask him if he needs any help. He nearly jumps out of his skin and starts yelling at me because apparently I snuck up on him. He demands to see my manager. And I'm just flabbergasted that not only would someone be so situationally unaware that they couldn't see me walking up beside them, but that they would be so angry that they would want to see my manager over it. I go and get my manager and he comes over and this guy says that I snuck up on him and was also very rude and laughed at him. Which was bullshit, and another customer who saw the whole thing even called him out on that. Eventually the manager tells him to leave with his stuff and that he'll talk to me. And seemingly the guy was satisfied. Manager, just say up. Don't sneak up on people or anything. And I simply respond with sure and got back to work. Only time a customer ever got angry at me. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.